What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Star Wars commentary by Inside the Force. I am Dave Cottingham with Hannah Burr. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning. How are you?
You got your coffee?
No, I was too much in a rush this morning, so I just have water right now.
Just water. Wow. Okay. Well, I got my Zoa energy drink.
Oh, a Zoa, or is it a?
Yeah, Zoa. This is The Rock.
The
Rock's
I didn't know
energy.
that The Rock made an energy drink.
Oh yeah, it's actually pretty good. It's at Costco. So there you go.
There you go.
It's not in my local Kroger here, so I found it at Costco, and then there it was. Anyway, welcome everybody. We are knocking out all new commentaries for all the Star Wars films. This is our 6th one. We're getting into it. We've done the prequels. We're going in chronological order. Did the prequels. Did Solo for the first time. For me, in a way, this is the first time we've been doing a commentary at all.
Yeah.
On any of these. Did Rogue One a little while back, and now we're diving into the original OG first Star Wars film, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got a lot to talk about with this. So,
we do.
You ready to go, Hannah?
Yep. 3, 2, 1, click.
3, 2, 1, click. All right, everybody.
All right.
We're watching on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. But if you're watching on YouTube, the commentary is going to be showing up right here. The film is going to be showing up right here. And here we go. We're going to start. Ready? In 3, 2, 1, go. And they have put the 20th Century Fox logo back on this film.
Yes. I love that they did that.
Yes. Ever since they purchased 20th Century Fox, now they own all that stuff now.
Yep.
Okay, so original film. This is I'm gonna start where we normally end, Hannah.
Okay.
When we normally end these things, especially when we do our Beyond the Saga series, we talk about perspective because all the stories that have been coming out ever since these movies have been out. Because again, for the longest time, all we had was the movies. Now, in this canon world of Disney, we've got books and games and comic books and TV series. It's just filling these gaps and expanding this. This being the original film, to me, has to be impacted the most.
Oh, absolutely.
So has your perspective of this film changed now that you've explored all of these different stories?
If anything, it's my respect for this film has skyrocketed. And I think because it was revolutionary, nobody knew that this was going to be a success. It was a risk. A bunch of different production companies were saying no to, or not production,
Studios.
Studios. They were saying no to this movie because it was so different. It was so out there. They didn't know how, and I just look at the effects of this movie. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's all practicals. Mm-hmm. Except for the lightsabers. And lightsabers, they went in and painted each into. So the more and the thing is, it's like with Disney, it all started with the mouse. This all started with Star Wars. Because when it first came out, it wasn't called A New Hope. It was called Star Wars.
That's right.
So, yeah, I just continually am wowed by this movie. Every single time I see another new piece of media out there that has to do with Star Wars, every time I see this movie, it's just wow.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. What about you?
Well, I wanted to bring it up first because I feel like that's something I'm going to point to as the movie goes on, because I think there's points in this where my perspective has changed a lot because I know a lot more information going into this. For example, that opening scene there where the Star Destroyer is chasing the Tantive V4. When you first saw this, it was like, oh, 2 spaceships. You don't even know about the Empire yet. If you just saw this and nothing else, you really don't know who the rebels are. Obviously you can kind of figure out who the rebels are, but it's like okay, this big figure that comes out, this dark figure that walks out. It's like, who is that? Well, now you know everything about this guy almost, right?
It's just like, it's so mesmerizing. It's, yeah, when you first watch it, you don't know what's going on. But just the visuals alone and the contrast between the two, you can easily, like, I don't know about you, but you could almost easily tell who's the good guys, who's the bad guys right off the bat.
And I'll tell you what, like looking at it right now, which I'll be honest, I haven't watched this movie on Disney Plus in a long time.
Same.
But it's still 77. It still really holds up well.
It does. It does. And I think it's because, and I honestly do believe that, like, obviously today we're like, oh, those blasters, like, okay. But everything else, they've used so many practicals in this movie that it holds well. And that's why I think, like, something like Lord of the Rings is going to hold well, too, because they use so many practicals versus CGI.
And the fact that, you know, I think you can look up several interviews of George, how he did a great job of thinking ahead and preserving the original film stock and not letting it just sit on the shelf and deteriorate. Like he copied it and digitized it and just kept cleaning it up. So it just it holds now because it's digital now. So you can get in there and really keep the quality of the film up to standards still. And so. But, you know, I was saying, too, the first scene where, you know, because remember, Rogue One ended with the Tatooine 4, you know, jumping to hyperspace. So this literally picks up now right after Rogue One. I mean, there's no gap. But I do want to point out, and I've mentioned this several times on the show, that just so people don't know, if they ever read the book from a certain point of view, A New Hope, like the 40th anniversary book that came out, there's a story in there about Captain Antilles, the guy that's on the Tantive 4 that Leia, you know, that gives Leia the plans.
Yes.
Because when you watch Rogue One, there's that part where they jump to hyperspace. Well, how did the Empire know where they were going? Because, remember, there's no hyperspace tracking yet, right? They don't know. Well, in that book, it explains that the story with Captain Antilles, he explains that their hyperdrive, because of the battle that happened there, there's Captain Antilles right there getting choked out.
Poor Antilles.
Which they did a great job making that guy look like the guy in Rogue One. I mean, they got almost the same exact looking guy.
Antilles has been through so much too. Can we just comment on that? Who knew that when you watch this movie, that one guy with that one 10-second screen time would end up having this huge backstory.
I know, right? I know. That's the beauty of Star Wars. Every character matters in Star Wars. Every character has a backstory. But he explains in that story that their hyperdrive is leaking, and you can track a leaked hyperdrive.
Wasn't there in one of the books they actually talked about people tracking hyperdrives through hyperspace, or there was a technology that, I seem to remember that there was something about tracking people through. Well,
that was in the Last Jedi is how they figured. Last Jedi is when they eventually figured it out.
Yeah, they finally figured it out.
Yeah, but that's years later. I mean, remember Rogue One? She mentions it as she's going through the list of projects when they're looking for the Death Star plans.
Yes.
And she says hyperspace tracking. Like, they're trying to do it, but at this point they haven't done it yet.
I feel like it also came up, though, in a book because they were like, we have to prevent them from getting these plans or something like that.
Right,
I don't remember, and who knows? That could have been a lucid dream. So
yeah. Well, the great late Carrie Fisher, everybody.
My favorite story is that, because James Earl Jones did the voiceover after they shot this. Great choice,
correct?
Because it's so iconic. He signed over his rights for his voice, so now they can use his voice forever as Darth Vader. But they never met on set, and the first time I think they actually met was when they were both in a Big Bang Theory episode together.
Interesting.
I think I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
But she's just iconic. Leia
Absolutely.
Harry did a great job with Leia.
Yeah, and and there's been a lot of talk, not a lot, but I mean, there's still talks about, the female presence in Star Wars, and there's, and I don't think it's justified enough, but there's a lot of people complaining when they see a female heroine, they're like, oh, they're just bending to the, whatever. But it's like, if you look at this film, there has been a lead hero female ever since the beginning. I mean, George will tell you, like, she's the hero of this story. Yes, Luke comes in and destroys the Death Star. Han comes in and, does what he does. But Leia is the leader of this film.
She's a general.
Yes.
And she's a teenager. Can we, not forget that for a second, that she's a teenager?
That's right. And she's been in this since she was a kid, as we saw in ObiWan, right?
In ObiWan. And then even when she was a younger teen,
yes,
she, in the book Leia, she finds out that her parents are part of it and she wants in. I mean, we see her in Rebels helping her dad smuggle stuff. She's been in it from the beginning. She's very, very passionate about this.
Very passionate about this. And I keep talking. I wanted to just show people, because I keep talking about this, my favorite picture I have here on my wall. And you can't see it because it's up here. I look at it every day I'm down here. Have I showed you this? This is. I
don't know. We'll see what it is.
So that's the picture that's sitting up here on my wall.
I love that.
And it says, "May the Force be with you." So this is one of 8,000 that they handed out at Celebration the year after she passed.
Oh.
So yeah, it was because it was the 40th anniversary celebration. So this was when I don't think you were working with us at this.
No, I was not. I was actually, I think I was in Pennsylvania doing morning news, because I remember getting the news that Carrie Fisher died, and then I think it was literally within 24 hours her mom died too.
That's right. No, I think it was like 2 days later. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a ridiculously short amount of time. Or I think she went to the hospital within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then she passed away the following. It's something like that. But no, I remember that day very, very clearly.
Yeah. But me and a bunch of guys jumped in a big van, and we drove all the way down to Orlando all night, through the night. We left at 5 after work, 5, 6 o'clock at night.
That's a 12-hour drive from Lexington.
Drove all the way. Hannah, we rented this. We had a partnership with one of the dealerships at Wrigley, and they gave us their Transit that was I'm talking, it was fitted out. It had a big screen TV, a 50-inch TV inside of it. Yes. So we were watching all the movie, we put in episode 1, 2. So just so everybody knows, if you drive from Lexington, Kentucky to Orlando, the convention center, it takes from the beginning of episode 1 till about midway through. We did 1, 2, 3, Rogue One, and you got to halfway through this movie, and that's how long it took to get there.
It also depends on when you hit Atlanta, because if you hit Atlanta on an off hour, then you're golden. You hit it during rush hour, you're screwed.
That's right. We hit it there. We hit it around midnight. So anyway, but we get there at 6 or 7 in the morning. The first panel that day was the 40th anniversary celebration, and we just get in line and just make it in, and that was how I was able to get that picture. And I would have been very upset if I would not have been able to get that, because that's my favorite thing, one of my favorite things, Star Wars things in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, perspective, again, coming back to that, really, that will change throughout this commentary, as well as, I think this movie will constantly change in my mind, and honestly, right now, it's always been for the better. There are a couple things which I'll question, which I'll bring up later too. But it just I get the wonder of this thing when you don't know anything and you're kind of having to get it explained. Like, for example, later on, Han explains hyperspace. Well, when you first see this, no one knows what hyperspace is, so he has to explain the navigation computer and all that stuff.
Right.
We all know that now, so that's kind of, it's kind of dialogue that doesn't matter anymore. But like these guys, Jawas, like, what do these guys do? And
yeah,
it's amazing to know how much more we've gotten from them as well. Especially with, I mean, they came across Boba Fett when he came crawling out of the Sarlacc. Now there's so many different things to think about now. Now, the next thing I wanted to touch on, because I don't think I've ever really talked to you about this, is the special editions that came out.
Garbage.
So you were an original. You're not a special edition fan.
No, I don't like it. It just, I think it's because everything is so CGI and it looks so fake that I'm just like, no.
CGI is not always that fake.
It's not always that fake, I know, but I'm like, no, why? Like, to me, it just sticks out more than if they just did practical. So that's me. I also, in the special edition, didn't they also change who shot first between Han and...
Well, they kind of made it so that they shot each other. Yes. Yeah.
And then, I will say, though, I did like the addition of the Jabba the Hutt scene.
Yes. True.
I will say I did like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm OG.
Okay.
You?
No, I'm. There's not a lot, if anything, that I don't agree with George Lucas on. And when he comes out and talks about how, like, for example, this is kind of the first look at special edition. This next scene right after the Sandcrawler. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the background was, but this right here, right? You added dewbacks that could move.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That just it. I mean, it's subtle things like that I think make it here's the thing. What he said was, films are never completed, they're abandoned. And as a filmmaker, I definitely can relate with how that feels. Any project that I've been a part of, even if it's for a client or myself, especially the ones I've done for myself, I definitely, you always look back at stuff and think, I would have done that differently. I would have done that differently.
That's true.
Now, as a filmmaker side, I would say, yeah, you've got every right to change whatever you want.
Yeah, it's your art.
Totally. But the audience member, I understand how they would say, oh, well, you're changing what was special about it.
Yeah.
So there's a tough line to draw there, because if you think about it on the filmmaker side, it makes sense to improve it for the new generation of audience that is used to CGI, because there's like my daughter, right? Sam, who's a perfect age right now, she's 14 and really getting into movies and watching movies. When she sees this, all she sees is the oldness of it. Until she sees some of the CG, the new stuff, and then she's like, "Whoa, that's okay." So it definitely doesn't. You can tell, like, this, all practical. I mean, there's not even a Sandcrawler there, right? It's only that piece of it.
Yeah. So
they had to do a lot of different things because they didn't have the technology back then to do this. So so when she sees something like this, it does take her out of it a little bit, because it does look old still, in a sense. To you and I, it looks nostalgic, right? It looks, but
that is the perfect word for that.
Yeah, because even though the quality of the film, like, it looks good, there's still, like you said, there's still so many. It's all practical, so it makes it look a little older. But I wouldn't change. Look, and that's actually one of my questions later. I'll get to about if there's anything else we would change. But I think what was improved, to be honest, I think helped dramatically make it better and better for audiences today. But there is a line of going too far, and I think he skirted with it a little bit, but I don't think he crossed it.
Okay. Like, I understand that too, and like, if you create art, of course, like with stuff I've made for my own purposes, even school projects, I look back and I'm like, wow, I would have done this differently. But yeah, they own this art, so
Yeah.
They can do what they want with it.
Yeah. I think there's a point where there is a point though when you tweak enough that at some point you do have to abandon it.
Oh, you absolutely do.
You can't keep doing it. I get that.
It will never be perfect.
Yeah, I get that because he just didn't do it once, right? There's like several special edition versions. Like even now, there's there was I don't think this one, but we'll talk about special editions. We'll get to it. Like there's still editions and changes. Like Return of the Jedi got little things recently, and this one just out. And there's Red there. I think that's R4. He's got a whole backstory too in that.
Yeah.
So he did. So see the backstory. Here's the thing: the backstory in the book too. Certain point of view, he did this on purpose. I mean, how awesome is that?
He did it on purpose. Like, it's nuts. I can't.
But see, that right there, like, is incredible to know.
Didn't he know that R2 needed, like, he had to do that?
He's helping R2 complete his mission.
Oh my gosh. I love droids so much.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a cool thing to know. That, again, just makes that scene way more meaningful.
Yeah, really.
But again, it's one of the things where George didn't write that, That
came after.
And it still works and still fits.
I also just, I'm sorry, like with Luke playing with this ship right here. Sorry.
See?
Side comment. He and Leia are the same age. Their levels of maturity.
Oh.
I just want to throw that out there for a second.
Very true. That I'd never thought about that actually. Because
Leia, I always keep forgetting that they're twins whenever I see them act, because I'm like, he's so whiny.
You're right.
She is so mature. She's a leader. She's been through so much. In fact, by the end of this movie, she doesn't know it's her father, but she's been tortured. Sorry, it's just kind of mind-boggling. And then when you get to episode 6, you're like, okay, I can see you guys being the same age now. But I just want to throw that out there.
No, that's actually something I have not thought about. And you're completely right. And just side note again, the spaceship he was playing with, now we know ObiWan gave it to him, right?
Exactly. We now know that.
But you're correct. I mean, he is a whiny farm boy and has been stuck there his entire life. Whereas Leia has been out there fighting an empire. And
actually for some space carders converters.
I mean, you're right. It is a complete contrast of childhoods.
Oh yeah.
And to think now too. Again, when you're first looking at this, you don't know the backstory. You have no idea who their parents are. Right?
Well, you have an idea with Leia. You figure because there was that throwaway line, the one general or the one trooper made to Vader in the beginning, saying she's the daughter of a senator. This will look very poorly on the rebel sympathetic Senate.
Well, she says I'm an ambassador to the Senate.
Yeah, right? I'm ambassador to the Senate, but I think that guy also is like, she's the daughter of a senator. This will not look good.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if he says daughter, but because I don't think so. Because at this point, we don't know. I don't think. I mean, there's no mention of Bail Organa ever in this for a long time.
Yeah, you're right. So, but she's an ambassador.
But she's part of the Senate. She's representing Alderaan. I mean, we definitely end up finding that. I mean, she's the princess of Alderaan is pretty much what you're under the impression of knowing.
Yeah.
Where he's a farm boy stuck on a moisture farm on a desert planet, Tatooine. So there is no way in your mind you're thinking that they're ever related. Like, there's no way.
They don't even look like each other.
True.
I know they're a thing. They're fraternal twins are a thing. I get that. I'm just saying they don't they're so different.
Yeah.
That twist is nuts.
It is nuts. but so it's you hear him say Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, so it's like something happened to his parents, so his uncle's raising him now. Like and they talk about his father here in the coming scene a little bit.
They do.
So you're led to believe that the father or the parents they're out of the picture, but it's different. It's just different now when their backgrounds and where the parents, because the parents are such strong characters and people. Padme and Anakin. I mean, just imagine. I mean, I see pictures and memes sometimes of these. Do you see these AI? I've seen these AI family portraits. It's Anakin, Padme, and Luke and Leia, like when they're like 10.
Aww.
And they're like dressed in Jedi robes, and just think of if they were properly raised by Padme and Anakin, how awesome powerful they would have been. I mean, it's crazy to think of like that.
I mean, that's like if they were to do a what if series with Star Wars, that's a what if.
That is a what if.
I think another what if is what if Luke and Leia swapped.
Totally. Yep.
Also, I do want to say this. We talk about strong female characters. Beru is also a very strong female character. We don't really know that much about her, but if you read Queen's Hope, she's one of the women featured in one of the 4 spotlights. It's like 3 or 4 spotlights they do. She's one of them. She worked so hard to free slaves.
She did.
And it was risky. It was risky business.
That's right.
So,
and you saw her, take a stand to protect Luke and ObiWan.
Yes, you did.
When Owen's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "No one's taking my farm. No one's taking my family." I mean, she's well done by the writers and everything like that. There, she's a powerful.
And then like we see this interaction between the two of them of like her saying like all of his friends are gone. We gotta let him go at some point. And he's like, no. And now because of ObiWan, we know it's because he wants to protect him. He knows who his father is.
That's right.
He knows what potential Luke has. Which also makes me wonder if they were just honest with Luke in the beginning.
Yeah, I know. It may have gone a long way. And obviously the most it's probably the most iconic scene still in Star Wars. I mean,
how many movies have a shot similar to this?
Yeah, none.
Within Star Wars specifically.
Right, yeah. But I mean, just that's it's just great.
Oh,
Music's great, perfect music at the time. So, a little along the lines of the special edition conversation. Here's the thing I was thinking about too was, what's your opinion on? So let's just say, what if, right? What if?
Right.
What if George just felt like in the 70s, like there's no way I can do this movie. I'm not gonna. It's gonna look like a cheesy sci-fi movie. I'm gonna wait. Let's say he waited till the 90s when CG started coming in. How different do you feel like this movie would have had same scenes and everything, just with the capability of having CG? Do you think it would have hit the same way or felt the same way?
No, because also at that point you would have already had so many sci-fi. But also you have to consider this movie's influence, because didn't this movie
that's right.
This movie combines Western and sci-fi. Like that's just what this does. We would not have a lot of the movies that we have today if George Lucas didn't break this barrier.
That's true.
I think that I don't think it would hit the same way, but I don't know. But I also think it would be so radically different. And it wouldn't hit the same, and it wouldn't be as groundbreaking. Because somebody else would have taken that risk.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, technology, the technology of filmmaking, and technology in general. I mean, I think this generation of people, young people that we have, they're experiencing the fruits of the labor, but they have no idea how difficult the labor was to get where we are. Right? It's happened so fast.
Yeah.
That just in the last 10 years, I mean, if you were born like my daughter, 14, like she has no. She's always had an iPhone. She's always had a electronic device. She's always had streaming. You know, it's like she's never had to pop in a VHS or rewind anything. She never even had to pop in a CD anywhere, right? Like it's all Apple stuff now, right? It's all it's Spotify. It's the ease of things is beyond what we know, and I know a little bit more than you do about stuff. So
back in my day, we had to pay per character when we sent a text message.
Well, did you have a corded landline?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Oh yeah, we had a corded landline. Also our family, like my family, just didn't necessarily keep up to date in technology. Mm-hmm. Like when kids around my age in high school were getting iPhones, I didn't have an iPhone, but that was also my choice. I didn't ask for an iPhone because I was like, I don't want to be attached to my iPhone. And then, this little computer changed everything in college. So
yeah.
No, but we had VHS. I still have a huge box of Disney classic VHS tapes that I refuse to let go of. We did that. My first, when I started running for soccer, I didn't have a CD player to run with. And the CD player was annoying because it would skip every time you did a bigger step than necessary. I used a Walkman, like cassette tape Walkman.
Okay.
So so I feel like I belong to the Walkman age because that's what I used.
Yeah.
To run for soccer.
Yeah, I think because we don't think about it as much anymore, but you're right. George changed. I mean, he changed the world in a sense.
He did.
Technology, a lot of technology has to go back. You can trace it back to him improving cameras and cinematography and digital editing and sound and all that. I mean, which not only just branched out through filmmaking, it branched out in other industries.
It did. Wasn't he one of the first people to use motion capture for Jar Jar Binks?
Yes, that was.
If not the first, he was one of the first.
I think he was the first to. Yes, I think it was the first to replace a character with a CG character. With motion capture. Yeah, because Spielberg did Jurassic Park earlier. Yes. So he did CG characters, and I think The Abyss did that water character. But to take a human, do motion capture, and then replace it with it, no one had ever done that before. Yeah. Yeah,
like you just look at everything he's done, and he has.
But even this, the way the ships are filmed in this, that it wasn't done before.
No,
it wasn't done before, and. I mean,
even the space battles.
The space battles, totally.
Spaceships blowing up,
Mm-hmm. And making it look real. Yeah, it is a testament. So now I will say, if done today or in the 90s, let's say, the only thing would have been different, in my opinion, really would have been the use of CG and probably the. Well, I take that back because he would have probably changed a lot of these scenes because he would have had capabilities that he didn't have.
Exactly. And I don't know if that would have been for the better or for the worse.
You're right. I think the tone of the film would have completely changed.
I think the only benefit that he would have had is that, because let's be honest, the lightsaber fights in these movies aren't as necessarily as exciting as, say, Clone Wars or Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the sequels. They aren't. And
they're more like fencing.
Exactly. So I think that's the only thing that could have potentially been better would have been the lightsaber fights.
Yeah, true.
But then you lose the story behind the fight.
I don't know, a little bit maybe. Or I do feel like that was we're a little jumping ahead because I have
sorry.
that. Yeah, let's talk about that when we get there because I do want to talk
good.
about that. I think that's a good thing to talk about. So this is an interesting scene. So the thing about 3PO, have you heard this theory? And I don't think it's canon. I don't think it's canon, but I heard it was like a really big theory. So if you notice, now again, I don't think George intended for this, but it's a possibility. So as soon as Ben opens or Obi-Wan opens the chest and pulls out that lightsaber, C-3PO automatically says, if you don't mind, I'm going to shut down now. And so the theory is that you remember in Rise of Skywalker when they're trying to get him to translate the Sith and he says, I'm forbidden to talk about the Sith. So the theory is that he shuts down because Obi-Wan is about to talk about Darth Vader.
But that's not that has to be headcanon because his memory was wiped at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yes, but you don't know what happened 19 years before this movie either, though.
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, there's
okay,
and you don't know. And yes, you're right. The memory was wiped, so the theory probably doesn't hold true. But it's an interesting theory why he does that there.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Why would he? Then all of a sudden now he's back. Looks like his head's moving
I was just
again.
thinking he needed to recharge his batteries.
Yeah, because now he's back up. Look, his head's moving again. So
yeah.
Just that part about Vader is like he shuts down.
Huh.
So anyway.
Well, okay, so if that was true, she just said to talk about the Empire. She just started talking about the Empire. Like, here's the thing. If you talk about the Empire is connected to Vader. Vader is a Sith. Therefore, C-3PO will be shutting down a lot more than we see him shoot.
Well, the Empire, I guess. The Empire is one thing. But Vader specifically and the way Obi-Wan was talking about him. I don't buy it. Look, I don't buy it. I just thought it was an interesting theory.
It's interesting for sure. Don't buy it.
Don't buy it either. Yeah. Of course, that was the most iconic message ever in movie making history. So Luke, there is, there's talks right now too that we've had a show about possibly another Obi-Wan season and the possibilities. And, I'm still on board with the fact that it would, I feel like it'd have to be more about Luke.
It would.
One. Yeah.
It would. And there are comics where he interacts with Luke, but also Uncle Owen is very, very, very strict about Luke not being in contact with Obi-Wan.
That's right.
So here's the thing. While it'd be great, I don't know where you would go with that story.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would have to be very isolated on Tatooine.
Yeah.
I don't know if Obi-Wan would be able to leave like he did before.
Like, that's fine, but I'm talking more of how the heck with Owen being a helicopter parent, how is Obi-Wan gonna get a moment with Luke?
Oh, I mean, he kind of loosened up. He kind of loosened up a little bit, and the stories you're talking about in the comics, I can't remember if he interacted with Owen much at all in those.
There was one comic where sorry, my voice cracked there. Luke somehow wandered off as a kid, and Owen was freaking out, and Obi-Wan found Luke. And I think either Luke saved Obi-Wan or he did something pretty spectacular with the Force that made Obi-Wan go, oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
Like, I remember vaguely that. But then Owen's like, don't talk to him again. Like,
yeah.
Obi-Wan's like, I'm just trying to help, man.
I think it's funny in this scene. For two things. One, this you can see right here in the wide shot. There's two empty seats.
Yep.
One is director Krennic's from Rogue One, so we kind of know that now.
Yep.
But two, this is a very big. I know I've mentioned this in my other commentaries, but this scene is actually, I think this gets overlooked. This is a very, very massive scene in the timeline of Star Wars, because the first thing that Tarkin says when he walks in here is that the Senate has been disbanded. Like, the Emperor has eliminated it and is basically solely in charge of the galaxy now. So if you think about it, I mean, it wasn't something he did right away 19 years ago.
No, it took time.
He let the galaxy basically crumble under its own, power. Like, these people are trying to politically get power. And we're seeing a lot of that now with like Andor and, Rebels. We saw it in Rebels a little bit. Like, there's this struggle for power, and the Empire going out and just gathering all these resources and, dominating these worlds. And that right there, it culminated right there. 19 years of turmoil and power and control. Now the Sith have ultimate power right now. I mean, the Sith have done it. One guy has now taken over the galaxy. I'm telling you, that's like the most powerful scene to tell us that information right there. And we haven't even seen the Emperor at this point, right? At this point,
no.
If you've never seen anything before, you don't even know who he's talking about. And you don't even know he's a Sith Lord, right? Because that's the perspective that changed right there, right? We know in that scene now, when Tarkin walks in there and says that, he's talking about the most evil guy in the galaxy that now has complete control. Before, it's like, oh, the Empire is like this war controlling government, right?
Yeah.
It's got all these ships and these stormtroopers, but no, it's the Sith.
It's nuts.
It's nuts, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, and that's crazy. Like Lowen and Baru or Gandhi. Sorry, guys. But yeah, that's why I really do. There's scenes that stand out to me that are very important and very powerful, that a lot of fans and a lot of Star Wars people might overlook.
Yeah,
to me, that's definitely one of them.
That one scene, I'll be honest, when I first watched it, I was younger, I didn't really understand. But then when I watched it after the context of everything, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. This isn't good. Like, it's crazy.
And another thing to point out there, which is crazy, and it has to do with the relationship between Vader and the Emperor. If you can see, Vader takes orders from Tarkin.
He does, which always confused me a bit until I read more of the books, and I was like,
yeah, right.
Okay.
Now I think in the George Lucas mindset, and what was kind of canon for a while was Tarkin was the architect or the mind behind the Death Star.
Yes.
And you kind of saw that at the end of Episode 3, right? You saw the Death Star being built and Tarkin, but you also know it from Episode 2. You find out that the Geonosians are actually the ones that created the plans for the Death Star and their plans for this thing. So
yeah,
Tarkin kind of adopted it, but ultimately it was Krennic that got the thing finished. So it kind of changed hands, but he ultimately ends up taking control of it. But there was a thing, and I think it ended up being canon again, but maybe not as deep. But there is a thing called the Tarkin Doctrine that was out there for a while, which was basically his ultimate plan for fear, control by fear, right?
Yes.
Like, we have this Death Star now. We're going to go around every planet and say, you do what we do, or we're going to just blow you up. And that's how they were going to plan on controlling the galaxy from this point on, and to them keeping peace. There's a complete CG. So this is now, we're seeing the transformation of Tatooine because of the CG and the special editions. Now I like this. This opens up Like we never saw how wide a wide shot of Tatooine like this.
Yeah, like that was pretty cool to see. That it was.
It makes it more alive. It makes, like George is saying, it makes it look like a spaceport. A spaceport's supposed to be like a central point where everybody is. And also now, you think about this, now 42, 45 years later, I'm playing a game, Star Wars Outlaws, where I'm walking around the streets of Tatooine and Mos Eisley, and I'm like, wow, this looks like what's in the movie. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Another iconic scene.
Yes. These aren't the droids you're looking for. I mean, how many times have you said that in your lifetime?
Seriously.
It's funny.
Oh my gosh. Love it. Going back to the Beru and Owen death scene, I think I learned through some trivia thing during a Star Wars weekend that this movie actually would have gotten a G rating if they did not show the skeletons.
Oh, really?
I think I have that right. I might be wrong, but I think
you're probably right.
Yeah, but this movie would have been rated G if they did not show the skeletons of Beru.
Because if you think about it, of all the deaths that happen in this movie, there's no blood.
Yeah, that's the most graphic. Well, no, there's a bit of blood when he cuts off the guy's arm at the bar.
That's the only blood.
Yeah.
I think that's the only blood. So, and honestly, that shouldn't have happened if you really think about how a lightsaber works.
That is the one thing that always confused me about this movie. I'm like, and nowhere else does somebody bleed from a lightsaber
wound. Yeah.
Nobody ever does. This is the only time. It's like, no, it should be cauterized. You know,
it should be cauterized. Yeah. That's the one thing in special edition that that's the one thing I am confused about. Of all the things he changed,
why not that?
Yes, he should have changed, and the fact that the guy's like it's the wrong hand, like it's not his hand either.
Yeah, it's the wrong hand too. But you know, whatever.
Yeah, so it's the wrong arm basically that gets cut off, and it shouldn't have blood. But you know, you get the point, I guess. But you know, it's funny because I will say this too, and I've come to kind of accept it like this, Hannah. And you tell me your thoughts about this. What I liked, Pablo Hidalgo, who sat on the original story council when Disney took over, and Lucasfilm was noted the story. They're called the story group, right? And Pablo writes a bunch of stuff with the encyclopedias and things like that. So he was asked a lot about the upcoming scene here coming up about Han shooting first, and he's like, "Well, you got to think about it this way," which I really love and respect. He's like, "You think about it this way: how many people are in the cantina right now?" He says it's probably 50 people hanging around, drinking, watching, playing, doing stuff, and no one's really looking at Han and Greedo doing this, right? They just see the aftermath. So if me and you are sitting in this cantina at different points and we hear this argument, but then we hear gunshots and then we look, the story you tell that happened in that booth is going to be different than the story that I tell that happened in that booth, right? And if you think about it that way, he's like, these are just like documentaries of what happened about a certain perspective. Like this is George's perspective of what happened. Now, if you believe Greedo shot first, you're going to tell everybody Greedo shot first. If I think Han shot first, I'm going to say Han shot first. We're not wrong. He said what's canon is that Greedo and Han were in a booth together arguing, and there was gunshots. Who shot first is your opinion, and it's my opinion, right? So if you think about it that way of all of these things, the canon is really where people are and what they're talking about. The circumstances of exactly what was said or exactly the actions could be different from points of view, certain points of view, right? That's the whole theme of this thing, really. So I thought that was, when I heard that and read that, I was like, okay, I can use that going forward so it doesn't really upset me when things fall out of continuity. Is that, what do you think about that?
No, I think that's true because, like, once again, we look at, I think another perfect example of that is looking at Tales of the Jedi with Ahsoka.
Exactly.
Getting her double blade, like that whole thing. that's not how it happened in the book. It's a more abridged version. But I think that's, that everybody has a different opinion. I mean, that's also why you have these books called From a Different Point of View, that all tell all these stories from a different point of view. So I think if there's something that's blatantly contradicting, then there's a different continuity problem there.
Yeah.
Like we almost had that. Sam Witwer said this in an interview. Feige was saying in this Clone War episode, he wanted Anakin to be like, he's talking to his mom, and he's like, I wish you met Padme. And Sam Witwer's like, no, she met Padme. And Feige was like,
Filoni, you mean?
Or it's Filoni, not Feige. I'm so sorry, Filoni. I get those two confused all the time.
I know. Yeah, that's true.
But Filoni was just like...
Yeah. You're right.
Sam's like, did I just lose my job?
That's true. I remember hearing about that, yes.
So that would have been a problem. Yeah, but something like who shot first, it's not... But that actually does bring up a question here. So what we've seen in ObiWan, what we've seen in books, is that the Jedi are very obsessed of being hidden. They're still after us. Mm-hmm. So when Obi-Wan takes his saber out, was that him being, was that just him being impulsive, or should he have done it differently? Does that shine a light on them in a bad way? Because now there are stormtroopers there, because somebody's like, oh my gosh, a lightsaber. And if this cantina is full of bounty hunters, is full of people who are wanted men, why didn't any of them immediately try to incapacitate Obi-Wan?
Yeah, that's a very good question and point that I had not thought of either. You're right. I mean, I think the only thing I can think of is...
Because it wasn't like it was a quick... It was a doom, doom, doom,
yeah.
Doom. Like, it was very prominent. Like, I don't care who you are at the bar or who shot first or who pushed who first. You're going to remember that there was a lightsaber used.
Right. And I think the only thing I can possibly say to explain it maybe is that think about the last time a lightsaber was possibly used. You think about, you have to just, and it's not that long ago.
It's
when
not,
you think about
maybe a decade or something like that.
No, less than that, because you think about Star Wars Rebels.
That's right. Yeah, it's fairly recent. People know what lightsabers are. And
correct.
In the public's mind at this point, a lightsaber is still a sign of the enemy.
Yes, exactly. I was about to say that. Yes, like the Jedi are still looked on as the evil people, probably,
exactly.
Right? Or people that. But see, here's the thing. Even though Rebels had a couple Jedi in there, no, they weren't out there in the public either, really, right? They were.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, so someone in Tatooine, like in that cantina, may have never seen a lightsaber before.
Really, though, because if you think of when Obi-Wan took place. And they found, because there are scenes where the Inquisitors found Jedi on Tatooine, and everybody knew.
You're right, which was about 9 years before this, right?
Right.
So, possible, yes, they may have known what a lightsaber is at that point, but he wasn't in there in Tatooine wielding a lightsaber.
That's true. It's just, for me, I'm trying to understand why only nobody, like everyone just was like, oh, it's fine. Only one person ratted them out, because we see in the next scene a guy talking to stormtroopers saying, hey,
yes,
you got to check this guy out. But why nobody else was like, this is going to, I will never have to work another day in my life if I turn this guy in.
Yeah, I that's a good question. I don't know if I can answer. I mean, like I said, the only thing I can think of is at some point, which we haven't fully, I don't think, unless it's in The Rise of the Red Blade, which I don't think it is. But at some point from the end of Rebels, when Ezra jumps to hyperspace with Thrawn, which is about probably a year before this movie or so, sometime between that point, you got to think about this. The Inquisitors get disbanded also. Like there's no Inquisitors anymore.
Yeah, that's not in Rise of the Red Blade. We never fully understand why the Inquisitors are just.
And see, I like how you said Jabba's back in. This is the first appearance of Boba Fett.
Yes.
Because he wasn't originally in this either, right?
Yeah.
They added that later too. But anyway, you're right. I think with Ezra gone, and of course Kanan passed away. You know, there technically Obi-Wan may have been the only Jedi left. Besides maybe, Ahsoka's still out there kind of.
And Cal.
Cal, we don't know.
We don't know, but at this moment,
yes,
it is safe to assume, I think, that he's out there.
Probably safe to assume. But no one's out there just wielding lightsabers everywhere. Right? Everybody's kind of, because Jedi are still, like you said, Jedi are still looked upon as the evil people that tried to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
And the idea that the Inquisitors were disbanded because the Empire, basically the Emperor felt like there's no more threats. Like the Jedi are gone.
Yep.
We don't need the Inquisitors anymore. They're actually a threat to me now because they are former Jedi.
He probably killed them all.
I'm pretty sure they killed them all. And now I'm waiting for that story because,
yeah,
I'm waiting for that story because we know how they started now. We're learning more about the Inquisitors are all Jedi, former Jedi, basically, or ones that kind of got thrown to the side, that didn't become Jedi but had potential. They were former Padawans or something like that. But anyway, it's crazy to think. So yes, I think you're right. I think that's a great question for like the story group or somebody in Lucasfilm to say, I mean, because he didn't even think twice. He pulled the lightsaber out. My only thinking, maybe in his mind, you can think maybe Obi-Wan, now that he saw the message from Leia, and now we know that backstory with Leia, which is awesome.
Yeah, maybe at that point.
Could Obi-Wan say, like, I'm it. It's it. This is it. This is the time to get back out there and fight. Maybe that's what he's thinking.
Maybe. Because there is, like, there's, and Alec is just brilliant. He's a brilliant actor. Rest in peace. But even that moment when he sees the message from Leia, he kind of sits there, and then he almost comes to, like, a resolve of, like, yep, it's time. Luke, I need your help. Like, there is that. So I wonder if that is the answer. He's just, not that he's like, screw it. He's just like, nope, it's time to make a stand. Yep. It's time to come out of hiding.
Yep.
We're done. We're done.
And again, another thing about that message to him from her means more because of the experience he had with Leia.
It does.
Oh, man, I saved her, when she was 10, and now she needs my help again. And I love that about that series. That to me, that really added to those characters.
While Obi-Wan's not like my favorite series, I do love the fact that we got Obi-Wan and Leia.
Yeah.
And I do love that scene. That confrontational scene between him and Darth Vader / Anakin, where he's like, "You didn't kill Anakin, I did."
I know, right? That's powerful, like, powerful stuff.
I guess my friend's really dead then. Like it's,
yeah.
I still sob through that every time I see it. Like I remember, I was an ugly mess, and my husband walked in. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Hyperspace.
The first time.
Shot. First time. Yes. First time. I think I brought it up to you, but did you know, because this blew my mind and I didn't realize this for years later, when they jump to hyperspace and the stars, get real long and they jump. Do you know the stars getting real long? You don't see that. You see that this many times, 0 in the prequels. When they jump to hyperspace in the prequels, it's the outside shot, the external shot of the ship just jumping. They never see it from the cockpit in all 3 of the prequels.
Why is that?
I don't know. Huh. I question that a lot about George. That's the one thing I wish I knew why he didn't do that iconic, because it's in It's in the sequels. They did it
Yeah.
in the sequels, but he did not do it in the prequels at all. Because I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little confused by that.
Yeah, that's a little
I'm
weird.
a little confused by that. But Alderaan. Now here's one of my questions too. Was when I did previous commentaries about this, and before ObiWan came out, obviously, we had never seen Alderaan, like really seen Alderaan. Like there was there was a shot of it in episode 3 when he takes Leia back to Bail takes Leia back to his wife, and real quick there's a shot there, but to really see it was again one of the things that makes the scene more powerful now too. About the people are truly peaceful, and what she's saying is absolutely true. Like there's no weapons, it's a peaceful planet, and he just eliminates so many people. Like another thing too, which I love, is the book. You remember the book Lost Stars?
Yes.
That event didn't just cause sympathy for a rebellion against the Empire, but it caused a lot of friction within the Empire.
Oh, it did.
Right? Because there's a lot of people from Alderaan that are in the Empire.
And they're like, wait, what? Like, I think if you were to pinpoint the beginning of the downfall of the Empire, it was when Tarkin decided to destroy Alderaan.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I think, like, from when Palpatine is, like, purely in control of everything, the first downfall of the Empire is when he destroyed Alderaan.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you now have discord in the Empire. You now have discord and fear in the Senate. You have them going, well, screw this. I'm going to join the rebels. Like,
yeah,
you can't do this. So I think the destruction of Alderaan is that first domino.
Do you think the Emperor knew he killed destroyed Alderaan?
He had to have, because he's connected to the Force. If Obi-Wan is feeling that,
No, I know, but do you think Tarkin told him he was going to do this before he actually did it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think that was a loose thread that Palpatine did not see coming.
Yeah, I wonder if Palpatine is sitting there like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?"
He found out, and he's like, so how do I get rid of this guy?
You know what I mean? Like, I that's an interesting thought too, is because I know he was controlling the Death Star, and I know he's enacting his fear tactic, but to destroy a planet without telling your supreme leader
like that, 'cause there's no way Palpatine would have allowed that. Like, yes, he's evil, but he's too obsessed with maintaining power, and he understands the power of patience. That's something we see in, I really want to say it's Queen's Shadow or Queen's Hope. There's a scene where, like, we get his point of view. No, I think it's Queen's Hope. We get his point of view on things, and he's really, really upset that a faction that he was leading was going to be destroyed. But he knew in the long run this would benefit him. He's like, let them have this little win.
right?
Or no, was it like the Genosian? No, it was the I forget what it was, but he basically was like, let them have this win. At the end of the day, it's a little loss on my part. So he would have not allowed Alderaan to be destroyed.
Yeah,
He would have
especially because this whole as we come to learn with these books, especially like Lords of the Sith, like he doesn't want anybody to think he has this power, this like dark side power. He's trying to still play the victim, that I was forced into being an emperor so I can serve the people, because all these people have so much confidence that I can lead us to peace.
Yeah. I mean,
he played this game for years. And now all of a sudden when he takes control, you're gonna blow up a planet to make him look like this evil guy. Like that's not. You're right. I think that was a complete backfire.
Oh, wait. Quick question. Mm-hmm. Tarkin dies in this movie, right?
Oh yeah, he's on the Death Star.
That's what I thought. I was like, he either died in this movie or in the 6th movie, but I was fairly certain it was this one.
Yeah.
So it could have been, if he survived this, Palpatine would have found a way to pin it on him.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sure he probably did. I'm sure he pinned it on him anyway, even in death.
Yeah, so he probably, but then my question is this, if you know that destroying a planet is going to backfire, why create a Death Star anyway? Like, are you literally just using all these resources to instill fear? And for no other purpose?
I think it is controlled by fear for sure. Yeah. Now, I think ultimately the Emperor would have used it on a planet that was in, what do you call it? A threat.
Okay.
But Alderaan wasn't a threat.
No, it wasn't. Like, of all places, Alderaan?
Yeah, I mean, to just
you're
do that.
In all the wrong places. Too soon? Too soon.
Ding. Yeah, no, you're right. Because if it was like because Tarkin was trying to get the base out of her, right? So
right.
That was what you destroy. Where the rebels are, which is the whole movie, right at the end, right? The countdown to destroy Yavin was because that's where the rebel base is. Like to Palpatine, that's what you destroy. Why are you destroying innocent people to make me look like the evil guy? Like I would not. Like ultimately, I feel like this the way it should have went was Palpatine would have immediately called Tarkin and force choked him through the hologram.
Heck yeah! And then all of a sudden we're like, ooh, who's a powerful guy?
Yeah, so I don't feel like he had this approved, and it seems like Tarkin's almost like acting rogue now at this point.
And I wouldn't doubt if right now Palpatine's like he's digging his own grave.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
For it, but he's digging his own grave, and Palpatine's like, great, I have another scapegoat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can pin this on him, and I'll still look like the hero in the people's eyes. And honestly, it would play to, like, we never really see this, but it would play to his benefit because then he could be like, see, this is why I needed total control in the first place. Look what happens. Yeah,
see, no, you're right. You're right. What I would love to know now at some point, and I think there will be some stuff that comes out of it, like, I would love to know the steps right now before that disband and where Mon Mothma was. And
yes.
Because that disband, if you think about it, that disband is probably what caused Bail to go back to Alderaan, which ultimately led to his death, right?
Yeah. Leia, she's been through so much. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
And probably within only 48 hours, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. In a very short amount of time, she went through so much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you want to, and I just mentioned her name, but you want to talk about strong female characters, like, I'm telling you, Mon Mothma is becoming one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
The more we learn about her, the more I'm like, why doesn't she have her own book?
Yeah, well, that I think it's coming. It's called Reign of the Empire. Next, I think in March, it's going to talk about her work in the Senate and during the Empire and all that stuff. So I'm all for that. I'm all for Mon Mothma, and because that is just somebody that. We for years, I mean, literally up until just recently, we had no idea the impact she truly had with the rebellion. And, her scenes unfortunately got cut in episode 3.
Yeah.
She had a brief thing in Rebels. She's now showing up in Andor and Ahsoka. And, it's you're really kind of seeing her value and everything that she stood for. And thankfully, we're going to get more in Andor season 2, and we're going to get more in these books that are coming out. But I think there's just so much more to be told there with her.
Oh, there absolutely is. I do also just want to say this: the Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run the Ride did an excellent job with the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Just want to say that.
Well, just the fact that you can go to Hollywood Studios or Disneyland and stand next to it, and the actual size of it, like the scale of it, is awesome. It's so cool to see. Who would have thought that a spaceship shaped like a hamburger was going to be so iconic?
It does have a very odd shape.
It does. And that's what he wanted. He originally, I think it was going to be the Tantive V4. I think that was kind of what the original ship that was going to be look like. But he's like, nah, you need something different. And he literally saw the patty of a hamburger, I think. It's like, I'm going to make it flat. And that's what it was. Yeah.
Wait.
What?
So, I'm sorry. This is such a small detail, but it's so big. So big. I just noticed right now. So, you saw Han walk out of the Millennium Falcon and tap the side.
That was Luke.
Oh, that was Luke? Well, okay.
Yeah,
so then Han would have told Luke to do this. There you go. He would have told him to do this. Just Luke walking out and doing this, Luke wouldn't have known to do that. Han has experience training in the Empire.
There you go. That's true.
Like, that is such a small detail, but talk about the continuity of that. Han would have then told Luke, hey, make sure you do this. That is the... Because immediately...
Comms, right?
The guy in the command uniform was like, oh, yep, I got you.
Yep.
The only way they would have known that is if Han had experience working with the Empire.
That's true. See, there you go.
Sorry, I got very excited over that little detail.
It's connected. Yeah, definitely connected. Yeah, because Luke has no idea at least I don't think he knows what a stormtrooper,
He probably is aware of stormtroopers, but he never would have known the signals that they send to each other. Meanwhile, Han would have.
Yes, Han would have. You're right.
Which is why later on when he fumbles over the comms of like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, true.
You would have known what to say.
That's true. That pretty much was the last conversation they had in person. Luke and ObiWan. I like how he leans against Chewbacca.
Yeah, that is absolutely hilarious, though. I wonder if Peter Mayhew was okay with that.
Yeah, but and I was just watching Solo the other day, and again, that relationship with him and Han and Chewie, it's like you get a sense of the deepness of it, and
yeah,
I mean, it actually is a good movie. Solo was such a good movie, and
it was. I'm really upset that it got as much hate as it did.
Yeah, because
it was a really good one.
If anything, the backstory of these guys and how they got together and how they're surviving throughout the galaxy together, and they have each other's backs. It's just a great relationship, and it just means more when you watch it like this. That they're more than just like pilot and co-pilot. They're family.
Yeah. See, this moment of Luke, now knowing that he and Leia are twins, this is when I see Leia in him. Because he's like, we got to do this now. Because that's Leia. Leia's like, this is what we're doing.
Right.
Oh, man.
So we're gonna go obviously get into a little bit here with Vader showing up.
Yes.
So when we talk about perspective again in a little bit, does it for somebody that's watching this for the first time or after seeing the prequels, I mean, how much does it hurt the film at all, if at all, that Vader is his father, or the backstory of Vader and Obi-Wan in this?
I think it just hurts more. Because when you see him in the earlier scene with his daughter, you're like, you're torturing your own kid, dude.
Wow, that's true, yeah.
Like, it makes it that much harder. Mm-hmm. And it just shows how more powerful and impactful it is that, Luke is going up against his father. Anakin tortured his daughter. He didn't know that, but he tortured his daughter. He's out to kill his son. Like, it just creates a whole new level of tension that wasn't there before. And a whole nother layer of storytelling too. So I think the first time you watch this, if you are blessed with the fact of watching this and you had no idea that Vader was Luke's father, I think it's very powerful and impactful. But then when you watch it back again, you just appreciate it even more. It's not like one of those movies where the plot twist ruins the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, I watched this and I knew that Vader was Anakin and Anakin was Luke's father. I didn't get that spoiled. Like, I didn't experience that while watching the movies. I was told that beforehand. Thanks, kindergarten friends. So for me, but that never ruined the experience for me, if that makes sense.
So you knew watching this for the first time that
I did.
That was his father. Okay.
I did. But it wasn't like, it didn't ruin it for me. I didn't feel like, oh, I wish I didn't know, like, because other movies you're like, oh, I wish I didn't know this was a spoiler. For this, I'm like, I'm not mad that I know it. It's not going to ruin the entire Star Wars experience for me.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't, because I don't have a solid memory of when I watched this for the first time because I believe I saw this sometime. See, the thing about it is I remember seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater when it came out. So that was my first experience. I don't think I had seen, because I don't think we had the VHSs yet of the first two movies.
Oh, so you already knew.
Well, but here's the thing. I was 6, so I didn't really know what was going on. Like, I just remember seeing, like, this crazy sci-fi movie on the theater thinking, wow, I didn't really follow the story as much, right? I was just a kid. So it was sometime in the mid 80s after that I watched them straight through and I got the whole entirety of the story. But even though I think you're right though, I feel like even though I went into A New Hope, I knew he was his father because of by that point everybody had seen the line in Empire. That was like the most iconic line, right?
No, I got to take this call. I'm very sorry. You can keep talking though.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew I was, watching a movie where I knew Vader was his father, but I think with Empire, everybody kind of knew that line. It wasn't, I didn't understand the depth of it. And it wasn't like, I think like Hannah was saying, I think it wasn't something that really took me out of it. If anything, it was more of an impact. I feel like what? How can his father be Darth Vader? It almost makes you want to know the story. Like, how did he become Darth Vader if he's, Luke and Leia's father? Well, at this point, you don't know that they're brother and sister. Maybe you might know that if you saw Empire, you might know that he's the father, but you don't know necessarily that they're both twins unless you saw Jedi like I did. So I did know that they were brother and sister, but they, that it's one of them things where I think impact is measured by how much the characters change. And the characters don't necessarily change, obviously, because they don't know. Like, Luke doesn't know that's his father. We know, and our perception of this may change how we interpret the film or rate the film or, understand the film. But ultimately, we got to keep trying to take a step back and look at it from the perspective of the characters, right? Like Luke and Leia right here, they don't know that they're brother and sister. So there's not going to be this like protective, quality or characteristic about them that says, don't do that. I'm gonna, because you're my sister or because you're my brother. Right now, they're just, rescuer and captive, and it's as an audience member, it's just cool and almost like an extra tidbit to know some of this backstory and to kind of figure out how these characters act amongst each other because of that backstory. So it's it really does blow your mind a little bit of how much story is out there and how much that these books and these comics and these other stories kind of change our viewership look. But we have to, again, like I said, we have to really take a step back sometimes and think that inside of these characters, they don't know these things that we know. So it's interesting to kind of think about it that way. And I don't know of any other franchise you really kind of think of things like this. It's like Star Wars is so big, and vast that it is so much to absorb and follow. But it doesn't change the fact that if you don't do those things, the how this film impacts you, it doesn't change that at all.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could compare it to, if we were to compare it to something else that was like that, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, that's true.
But
there's not a lot of side stories and other books about Lord of the Rings, right? I mean,
they took so much out of the trilogy, and then you have the Silmarillion.
No. I'm saying there's the books, but there's no other like stories and books beyond that.
Well, now they're doing it. I mean, they are now with Rings of Power. Sure. You also have the Silmarillion, which is
but you're talking about a small percentage compared to what Star Wars has done.
Comparatively,
right?
yes, but yes. I'm saying there is so much more to it too. But if you don't read the books, if you don't read the Silmarillion, you're not missing out when you watch Lord of the Rings. But I don't think there is any. The only thing I think that could compare to this is Star Trek, potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
Potentially.
Yeah, the literature. The publications and all that just really separates it, because there's Star Trek did a lot more TV early on.
Yeah. So I wonder then if you go to like Marvel or DC, just with the numerous animated series out there, the numerous comic books, the numerous books. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. Like nothing. Yeah. I don't think nothing is as seamless and is as comprehensive as Star Wars.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, totally agree. There's a whole story about this Donaga. Is that what that thing is?
I think so.
There's a whole story about how he got in this trash compactor too in that book, which was awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing to follow that. Yeah, because you kind of think you're in space. How does an alien like that? Well, this trash is collected from parts of the galaxy and kind of brought there, and some of it was dumped there, and then it's got to go back out somewhere. So, it's fun. It's funny because like this is what did he tell 3PO? He's like the number. I knew the number, but now for some reason it's blanking me. What he tells. He's like, unlock, the so-and-so number in this so they can get out of this. Well, that number, if you go to Galaxy's Edge.
No way.
Have I told you this?
No.
So, we'll see it here in a second. In fact, let me turn on my subtitles so I can see what he says, because he says like when he's yelling at 3PO and he says it's like what he's like, what are we in? God, I can't remember. I knew the number, but anyway, that number is on the trash cans in Galaxy's Edge.
No, it's not.
I promise you, because I was sitting there with my kids and my wife. And we're just kind of eating one of those benches next to the garbage cans. And I remember looking at it, and I started laughing out loud. And they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" If you because it's in Arabic, obviously, so it's like,
Right.
but the numbers aren't. But if you read it, and it says like something like take to that number or something like that, or transport to.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? That is great attention to detail right there." But it's like little things like that. You know, it's like it's there. Only nerds like myself would really get it.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's a tie directly to the trash from Batu. But that doesn't make sense either because at that point the Death Star is destroyed. But whatever.
Right. But whatever, it's fine.
It's fun.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. At some point it'll matter because I think they'll change the timeline of Batu.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wait.
What?
They're on a Star Destroyer, not the.
No, they're on the Death Star.
Okay, they are on the Death Star.
Yeah.
That's right. They got pulled into that tractor beam. Okay.
Yeah. They're on the Death Star. They are. They're in the cell block area or whatever.
Yeah. Will you shut up and listen to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, back then it's like you got to make these high tension moments, And this is a pretty good high tension moment. Music's incredible. I mean, John Williams. I mean, gosh, how do we?
What a genius!
Yeah, how can we not mention him? It's like, the music. I mean, he really. And that's another thing too. Is like if you didn't have the right music on this movie, it would not have.
I think John Williams also has the record for the most Academy Awards won.
Oh yeah, I totally think you're right. Yes, 326-3827. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's it. 326.
So that next time you go to Batu, look on the trash can. You'll see 326-3627.
Oh, that's amazing.
You will see that. I'm telling you. I was like, what? That is awesome.
That's amazing.
That's so funny. Okay, so let's see. ObiWan is, disconnecting the tractor beam.
Yep.
Before he fights the iconic scene between him and Vader. Now,
it's technically the first lightsaber fight we ever get.
That's exactly right. And you can tell it's the first one now.
Oh, you can tell. you can tell. But
so
I also wonder.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, I think part of that is because you know what they have to do in post to fix it, and that takes time. But I also wonder if the other part of it is due to Alec's age, and also due to how cumbersome that Vader suit is. Like, I wonder if that played into part of it as well.
No, I think so. I think you're right. I think, I definitely think Vader can't move around as much. David Prowse can't move around as much. Alec Guinness is so Alec Guinness is definitely, and that's another thing too to think about. He is older than what Obi-Wan actually should be in this movie. Yes. Right? Because I think I can't remember what it is, but I think Obi-Wan should only be in his 50s or so, like maybe early 60s, but I think Alec is in his 70s at this point.
Stress, you see before and after photos of presidents. I mean, it could be he just was under an immense amount of stress.
Oh, well, true. You're right. Obi-Wan, you mean, right? Yes.
Yeah. But if you look at before and after pictures of presidents of the United States, the stress of those 4 years just aged them. So I'm saying it could be he was under so much stress he just.
Yeah.
Or that sun could have just really destroyed his skin.
Totally. Definitely, you can make that argument for sure that he was aged. He aged really fast on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Do you think? What are your thoughts on? Because and I don't know if you've seen it or not. I thought maybe we've talked about it. Somebody redid the lightsaber scene between Obi-Wan and Vader. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it, but you've told me about it.
Oh yeah. So I think I know the answer from you, but would you be okay if they actually redid that lightsaber scene?
Part of me wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just because, like, come on, that's the OG. That's the very first lightsaber battle. I understand wanting to make it more exciting. I get that. But at the same time, yeah. I don't think so. I don't think you go back and change it. Because that is also the only lightsaber battle we get in this movie.
It is. And that was kind of the theme, right? On these movies is that the lightsaber battle came at the end.
Yeah.
Each time. I would say this. I would actually be okay with it. I would be okay with it. Only because of the amount of backstory and context that we've got now.
Okay.
Now, if there wasn't anything before this movie, and that George and them in Star Wars only went further beyond this movie and never a backstory, then I would probably be against it because we wouldn't have seen what lightsaber battles looked like in the past.
That is true. That's true. But then if you change that one, does that mean you have to change the one in Empire Strikes Back? Does that mean you have...
Empire's pretty good, though.
Like, Empire is really good. Like, don't get me wrong. But, like, this is what I'm saying. Does that mean you have to change that one? I don't think you have to touch 6. But if you touch 4, then everyone's going to expect you to touch 5 and 6. When 5 and 6 are
if you think about it, though... But you think about it, though, 5 is Luke, and he didn't have the training that ObiWan had.
Yeah, and Vader was kind of toying with him.
Yes. If Vader wasn't going to kill his son, he's trying to turn him. So... And you think about it, Vader, I mean, he's aggressive in Empire. Like that, he is going after him.
And that's him holding back.
Totally, right?
That's him holding back, and that's really terrifying to know.
That is terrifying to know. But I think with this fight, it's like, I mean, you saw the fight just 9 years prior to this, and that was pretty awesome.
That was amazing.
Right?
Amazing.
So now the one that was redone by a fan, like that's probably a little overboard, like because it was probably a little too much like acrobatic moves by ObiWan at this point. Probably not going to happen.
I mean, like we see Yoda do it, so I understand why he thought that, but I think also Yoda's a different species.
Totally.
And because you do have to take age as a factor. I mean, but this fight isn't terrible. Like
it's not terrible.
You see it for the first time, you're like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?"
Yeah, no, totally. But again, it kind of looks like fencing, Like, like this part right here. I tell you, like this part right here, where it's like just like, wait, is it this? Yeah, like, and then, it's like, there's no constant striking like lightsaber battles are. You know what I mean?
True.
Like it's like dink, 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 and then they separate. Dink, 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 and then they separate. It's like dink. They goes back and forth. Okay, I'll go down to your legs and then back up. So it's like Vader would be, if he's truly seeing ObiWan for the first time since their last fight 9 years earlier. Now 9 years earlier. But at first we thought this could be 19 years. Like they'd never seen each other in 19 years. And if he's like, I am going to destroy you, he would be coming out at him like, I mean, so aggressive. So anyway, it's all like the way it looks. It's like it's all about positioning. Versus like just really going at him and what we've seen in lightsaber battles before. But I gotta say, this was an interesting move by ObiWan to sacrifice himself.
Oh, I was about to say we're about to get to a very, very powerful moment here.
Totally.
But I mean, but it makes sense because he had training on how to just always be with him.
That's exactly right. And if you think about it,
and that smile of like.
Well, my interpretation of that is, if you think about it, that smile to me was him remembering when he saw Qui-Gon get killed. Because this is the same setup, right?
It is. He's like, you've lost.
What that did to me, like he's like, what that did to me seeing my master get killed, you know, I want that for Luke.
I think it's that. I think it's he sees Luke and Leia are together. He knows who Luke and Leia are.
Oh, that's true.
And he sees that they're getting away. And so I think that smirk is a combination of all of that to one final line of, you've lost.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's good.
Like, it's because I think there are so many things going on. I know what this will do for him. I know that I can now actually train him better than I ever could before.
Yeah.
Leia's now with him.
Yep.
You've lost, Anakin.
That's right. That's true. That's a good one. Now, I will say, of all, like, again, I'm okay with the lightsaber battle if they didn't redo it. That's fine.
Can I just comment on this one scene 1 second before you get to that?
Yeah.
Leia lost her planet. Leia lost her family. Leia was tortured. Who is comforting who? Somebody who lost, like, no offense, sure, a mentor, and maybe a couple of days ago you lost your aunt and uncle. She lost a whole planet! I'm just saying.
That's the difference between them, right?
I'm just saying. Can we just, like, look at that for a second?
That is very true.
Sorry, it's something that always, like...
No.
Makes me go, man, she's awesome.
That's a good thought. I didn't think about that. Yep.
Anyway, back to what you were saying about
I was just going to say, and I might get some slack for this, but, you know, to be honest, if there's anything that I think they should change is this whole scene. This is like the one scene I do not like in
May I ask
movie.
why?
I still think it's poorly done as far as, like, right there, which maybe we might be, I don't know if we're together, but the two TIE fighters that are flying by.
Yeah, it happened at, like, the same time you said that.
The Death Star, or the Millennium Falcon just looks like it's sitting there and it's not moving. Like, this is like, there's shots of this that just look like it just looks model-ish, and it doesn't look anything like the other shots do. I think it's still poorly done. It's just because this should be a fast. It's the way it's described. It's a fast, like, you know, space battle. Like, they're trying to get away from these TIE fighters while they're trying to shoot them. If you think about it, it's very much like what we got in The Force Awakens when Rey and Finn are evading those two TIE fighters and they're flying through. Like, that's what's happening in this scene.
Huh.
And this just looks like it's just sitting there and all these TIE fighters are flying all around it. Like, that's not how it would be. That's the only, and I've thought about this for years, even before we did the special editions. Like, I thought this scene was very, it takes me out of it, to be honest. It takes me out of it a little bit because the way I know that this Falcon, like, look at how it jets off. Like, that's the way that the Falcon would have been moving this entire time. So anyway, I just think the slowness of it was just not. It doesn't fit.
I've never noticed that before, so I think I would have to go back and watch it again with that in mind. Yeah.
Like again, what I envisioned this scene to be, I saw it in The Force Awakens when Rey and Finn, because exactly that. It's like he's flying around trying to shoot these things that are trying, and they would never. TIE fighters. Remember, the Falcon's the fastest ship in the galaxy, technically, right? Technically, it's the fastest ship. The TIE fighters would never be able to go around it and come from the front like it does.
The only thing I can think of is because Chewie's co-piloting, Leia's not really piloting. They are more of a standstill than they are moving forward.
Well, there's no way you would do that because you're just giving up because you got four TIE fighters.
I got nothing. Now you're making me rethink the whole thing.
Yeah. That scene just doesn't make sense to me. Because you wouldn't just sit there because your shields would go down. You would take too much damage. You'd have to be. Chewie should be in there changing, manipulating the deflector shields based on but they only should be coming from the back. Maybe a little bit on the sides, but there's no way the TIE Fighter can fly fast enough to get in front of them and come from different angles. Like that's, anyway, that's just me being, a stickler for practicality a little bit about, what I know about TIE Fighters and what I know about the Falcon and what I've seen in other stuff that, because like think about the Empire when they're chasing after it. That's exactly what it is, right? When they're going through, when he's going through the asteroid field and he's going down, like that scene is pretty much what he just did there. And I wish that's the one thing I wish he would redo, because you don't have to necessarily change what's inside, right? Han and Luke are still. Yeah, you just
changed the outdoor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would make it more intense. It would make it way more intense, but.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's just my opinion. That's the one thing I wish
that is how Inside the Force got canceled.
Why is that?
No, I'm just saying people will say, like, because you said
I think there's a lot of people that agree with me on that.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
we're not getting canceled for that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I think I might agree with you on that one.
And I did always think, too, that why didn't he change the graphics of the Star Destroyer plans?
Yeah.
But I'm 100% okay with it now because they kept it in Rogue One.
They did. At least they kept it. They kept it consistent, because then it's like, okay, this makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. But this has been it's crazy to think too. There's been a lot of stories that have come out of this war room with all these with Rogue Squadron too. In the books, Alphabet Squadron and Rogue Squadron. We're gonna get a movie apparently still possibly called Rogue Squadron.
Okay.
Yeah, that should follow some of these characters. Some of these characters have been in the books too.
Yeah. I still though. So, are you aware of the YouTube channel called How It Should Have Ended?
Yes.
My favorite one for Return of the Jedi is no large port, sir, or no hole, sir. Great. No, we created a huge, bigger port where a whole spaceship can fly through. And he's like, excellent. What? Like,
yeah.
Come on. That is my one big thing about this is you knew the failsafe of this one. Why did you make an even bigger hole?
I know.
For spaceships.
That's true. I don't know. So but let's talk about that a little bit because we just saw the graphic where.
Oh yeah.
That they so again without knowing now that we know Rogue One and we know how they got the plans and we know and all that stuff. To you though. Now that we know that Galen Erso created the flaw in the Death Star, that this torpedo that they could shoot in this really small opening exhaust port, going into this without knowing that, you're thinking, okay, they analyzed the plans, they found the weakness, this is how you do it. But the weakness was because of Galen Erso. Does that change the impact to you of Luke's, iconic moment of destroying this Death Star?
I think it definitely adds to it because here's the thing: if it was created by anybody else, they would make sure there was no failsafe. They would make sure that everything was ticked and tidy and there was nothing that could destroy it. My thing is it gives even more credit to Luke because you sit there and you think, okay, this is the failsafe he put into place. But and back there was a side comment of nobody can shoot that, and Luke's like, oh no, it's no different than da-da-da-da-da. Like the fact that it went under the radar because it had to be so tiny, it had to be so minuscule, and the fact that Galen had a hope that one person or a team or whomever could do this. is nuts, because I don't know if he was aware of Force wielders at that point.
Yeah, no, I don't think he anticipated that at all.
No, he didn't. So, like, I think it just adds to it because it shows that nobody else could have done it except for Luke. Literally, Luke is the one person Galen was hoping for.
So, I guess that begs the question. I guess is that his only option of making it like that? Like, why did he make it so difficult, even though it is a flaw?
The only thing I can think of is, like, you have to imagine in the Empire there's a lot of QC.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think he just didn't want to risk something even bigger.
Yeah.
Or he probably also knew, I can get away with this. I can't get away with this, but I can get away with this. And at least there's one speck of hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so then there's the flip side, is if he didn't put the flaw in, could Luke have destroyed the Death Star?
I think so, but then the question is, how?
Well, yeah, I mean,
he would have
besides
had
this
to have
flaw,
done a stealth mission into the middle of the Death Star and destroyed it from within.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And I don't think anybody would have been able to.
So there's no way they would have done it with an aerial battle like this if there wasn't this flaw.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting to think of. Like,
now,
all those things had to fall in place.
They did.
And like you said, you had to have a Force user, which is again is, and part of me sometimes forgets about that. Like, Luke didn't just get lucky. Like, he used the Force.
He used the Force. He put the visor aside so he would have no distractions, and he just used the Force.
He shot it and just guided it with the Force through the exhaust port. I mean, that is some powerful stuff right there.
Yeah. And we already know that Luke, like, from the comics, because in that one comic with ObiWan, he does use the Force. Yes. He doesn't remember ever using it, but he used it.
That's right. That's right.
And so he's already, and you even have Vader saying the Force is strong with this one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't know how to hone it.
And that's another, like, you want to talk about luck. It's lucky that Vader decided to go get in his TIE fighter, or he'd be dead too.
He would be dead. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Well, I think part of it too is that we know the backstory of Anakin. We know that Anakin loves being a pilot. Anakin loves action. So he would be like, yeah, I'm going after these guys.
I do wonder now, and I don't know if he knew about this character at this point, but I do wonder now where, which I don't think I know, like, where is Mon Mothma at this point? Because
probably in the Senate.
There's no Senate.
Oh, that's right. Well, she probably...
Remember, she was there, Rogue One, and then all of a sudden right now during this battle, I don't know if she got evacuated but she's not there anymore when this battle's going on.
Interesting.
Neither is Bail, because Bail left and went to Alderaan, right? So he's killed.
Maybe she's on her home planet.
She could be back in Chandrila. It's possible.
Well, I mean, think about it.
But it's weird. Why would you do that and leave everybody else there? Like, why wouldn't they all evacuate? So,
well, maybe it's because she needed to go home and, like, break the bad news to everybody that the Senate no longer exists. So how the heck do we function as a planet?
I guess that's possible. Yeah,
I mean, because
she might not be aware that they got discovered.
And that's it too. She probably wasn't aware because they weren't able to send her a message fast enough. Because they're too focused on destroying the Death Star right now.
Yeah, that's true.
They're too focused on saving their own butts before letting her know.
Yeah, so you got General Dodonna there. You know, and you think about this too. Like, it was just about a week earlier, or maybe a few days earlier, that they had a meeting there with the Alliance leadership, and they were basically saying, like, we're done. We're not going to be doing this anymore. There's no way with this Death Star. So I will always, I will say it from now on, ever since Rogue One came out. Like, to me, it's like one big movie. This Rogue One and A New Hope is basically one big movie. It starts with the discovery that there's a planet-killing space station out there, and the conclusion is they finally destroy the thing. And I think that's, if I remember correctly, I think it spans, like, both movies span about a 5, 6, 7 days or something like that. Like that, it's not
like all of this is boom, 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 boom. It's
exactly.
Not months.
There's no time in between to think about something, to regroup about something. It's like, it moves pretty fast once you start Rogue One.
Everything does move really fast because in the comics we hear that Leia never really had a proper time to grieve.
Yes, right.
She never had a time to grieve, and it's even brought to light by one of her friends in Vader Down. That's
right.
Because she's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "I don't have time for this," and it's like, "Girl, you need to take care of yourself too." It's actually, when you think about everything she went through and how much she really like shoved her feelings down, how she didn't turn to the dark side is absolutely amazing. Because she does have dark side tendencies. We saw that in Princess and a Scoundrel.
Yes.
She has dark side tendencies. It is absolutely mind-boggling that she did not turn to the dark side.
Well, and it probably helped a lot, the little training she did give with Luke.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they trained for about a year.
And maybe part of that training was her realizing that she has this dark side in her. Because she is force sensitive. We see that in the Leia book.
Yes.
She's force sensitive.
Definitely.
But maybe, like, with the vision of her son and knowing her own tendencies, she was just really scared for him. And that's why she wanted to make sure he studied with Luke, not with her. Yeah. And that's also could be why she stopped her training, because she didn't want to be tempted anymore.
Right. That's a great perspective for sure.
I mean, all not proven facts, but it's just, No,
yeah.
It's thoughts.
But see,
Wedge! Sorry.
Wedge, yeah. But see, like, here's an example, Hannah, like, the other scene versus this scene. Like, he redid shots in this CG to make it more action-packed and make the TIE fighters and the X-Wings move faster.
Which still feels really fake to me, but I'm also not mad at it.
Oh,
like
the
addition of like the other creatures and Tatooine, that's when I was like, really? But this I'm not mad at. So,
no, but this is like, but like this scene here too, even it felt like the other scene before where you didn't really see the speed of things and didn't really get any wide shots of the actual battle. Like there's a massive space battle going on right now. And there's shots in the original version that you just see one ship and just flying around. But there's laser cannons on the surface that are just blasting. I mean, it's like a big firefight, which we don't really. And even right now, I feel like we still don't get the full perspective of this big firefight going. Like the intense firepower that these X-wings are experiencing right now. I don't think we still see the actual. The danger of it, but he did a pretty knowing the technology. In particular,
he did a really good job updating.
Yeah, and having this Trent scene, get away from the firefight and like have the countdown moment, right? Every good movie has a good countdown moment, and this is that, and it's pretty clever how he shot that. Oh, Tarkin, you should have evacuated.
Well, if he evacuated, then Palpatine would have killed him anyway for destroying Alderaan.
That's very true. That's very true. Yes.
So the question is, how would you rather go?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Like, you know how this ends, but it's just very intense.
Very intense. And see, and again, what was really neat, Red Leader. Like these shots are in Rogue One now, so he was at the Battle of Scarif now, and now he's back. Now he's at the Death Star. It's pretty neat.
It's great
to see that footage used.
So I know we're getting kind of close to that iconic moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if this story is true, but one of my closest friends who used to want to be an editor, she told me this story, and like it's one of her favorite stories about A New Hope. Is apparently this whole sequence of this fight scene and Han coming in to save the day looked differently. Like it wasn't, it was different. I don't remember how she explained that she learned it was different, but she said that George Lucas's wife told him if you don't have the crowd cheering when Han Solo swoops in, you've lost the entire movie.
Oh, that's probably true. I've heard a lot of stuff about how his wife shaped.
She was one of the lead editors, I think.
She was the lead editor. Yeah.
So I think she convinced George to edit it a certain way so that when Han came in, it would get a cheer from the audience. And if you listen to the recording of people watching this for the first time, what happens?
Interesting.
They erupt in cheers when Han Solo swoops in to save the day. Yeah. So this movie could have looked a little differently in this fight scene if it weren't for George Lucas's wife.
That's, well,
talk about strong women.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, and like you just described, the actual role of an editor, and how they contribute to filmmaking.
And I love that. I think the really unique thing about this podcast with you and me is that we're in the business.
Absolutely.
We can speak into the business because this is what we literally do for a living.
That's exactly right. Totally.
And so I think that is a unique perspective that we can bring into.
Yeah, because, you've built up this space station to be the ultimate killing machine. I mean, it destroys planets. That right there is mind blowing, right? And you have these little ships that are trying to take this thing out, which should be impossible. But how do you create tension and drive that tension for a good 10, 15 minutes, And the way it was cut, and the trench being, again, it comes back to the whole thing about countdown, right? You're always up against a clock when you're up against tension. That the trench is a clock, it's ticking down, right? It ticking. The further you go down, the more dangerous it is.
That's a clock. You have the tracker clock.
The tracker is a clock.
The Death Star is in range. There are so many clocks going on right now.
Totally, and all these people are dying around him to the point where Luke is the only one. There's only one hope. The only hope.
Here we go.
Is it?
30 seconds.
And you're right. And then this whole thing with Vader, sensing something, which is it, because think about that. In the middle of all this, it's all of a sudden Vader's wait a minute, this guy's different.
I think it's fair to say editors in general, and I mean I could be biased because our editors are absolutely amazing.
They are.
Editors are the unsung heroes of movies. Totally.
I've always thought, ever since I was an editor for a long time, I was like, this is a lot of work, and it's a lot more negotiating than people think.
Oh, it is.
Right?
As a producer,
because as a producer, you go in there I got this vision, but as an editor, we're supposed to say, you know what, I get that, but what if we did it this way? And it's oh, or sometimes it's no, but then it's oh. Yeah, that's actually very good.
Well, that's why, as a producer, personally, I'm very hands-off with editors. I'm very much look, this is
our editors have a little producing in them, so I think that's why it's so good to have that type of editor.
Oh, absolutely, because then you just let them work their magic, and I think every single time except for once, it's always been better than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah. So that's interesting to know, because you could have had another reason why Vader wasn't able to get a shot off.
Yep.
But you bring in Han, who left, or who you thought left. There it is. Yeah, it's and what a great shot, the Falcon coming in. And
chills. I have literal chills right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then there it is, using the Force to get, it's just, what a great, satisfying ending.
I literally have chills all over my body. That just still blows my mind every single time.
Now, I've done, a couple years ago, I did this on the New Year's countdown where the Death Star exploded at midnight.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. I ran into the living room where we had it playing. I was like, 3, 2, 1, and then the Death Star exploded. Yeah.
I gotta say this though, like, who has time in their life to figure out how to perfectly time?
Somebody did. I'm grateful for them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Now, and I will say, like, these three guys, the excitement that they're about, I mean, it is so genuine, like how they feel, what they accomplished. Now, think about it too. On the flip side, I got to say it. Flip on to Luke just killed millions of people.
Yeah, I mean that's a thing.
I mean, but there's always the flip side, right? There's always the other side of it.
He did kill millions of people, but unfortunately, that is part of war.
That's war. That's totally war.
You're looking at the greater good, which I'm usually not a fan of believing that the ends justify the means. Yeah. I think they have equal impact, but that's definitely the mindset here. Is also, can we just? Okay, so the shot when they first both walk into it, you have Luke being mesmerized by everything, like, whoa, and then he's going, and you have Han be like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever seen the cut of this where they took out the music?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think we talked about that. That is hilarious.
Especially the random coughs just happening.
Yes. And people just like coughing, sniffing and shuffling their feet and getting antsy.
Yeah.
And it's so quiet. It's so awkward.
It is so awkward. It's so cringy. It's amazing.
Even like right now when like R2's going crazy, it was like you're like, what the heck? Why it's so loud. That's so funny. It is so funny. But
although I gotta say, Leia, why didn't you put a medal on you?
And Chewbacca.
And Chewbacca. Why didn't you give Chewbacca? Why didn't you give R2, who sacrificed himself?
Yes.
Like, come on.
I know. Come on. Yeah. But what a great. What a great. Now, where does last two things as the credits get ready to roll here. For one, special edition. I know we talked about it a little bit. I kind of shared a little bit of what I would change. Is there anything else you would you change anything about this movie?
No.
You wouldn't?
I'm starting to tear up a bit. No, I would not. I don't think so. I mean, like, after you mentioned that, I'm like, okay, maybe, especially since they did do that with the Death Star.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't think so.
I think the only things I would do is, like I said, that one chase scene after they leave the Death Star. And then possibly the lightsaber fight. Like, that's maybe, but I'm okay with it, but it still would have been pretty good to see that difference. But anyway. Okay, so last thing as we get into the credits here, but one thing I wanted to say was based on all the stuff that we've gotten now that kind of change our perspective of these characters, and has this movie moved in your rankings a lot as these other movies have come out, or where does this fall still on your list?
I would say it's still at the worst a top 5. Mm-hmm. At the worst.
Really? Okay.
It's up there. It's up there because, like, it's the one that started it all.
True.
Like, that attributes to it as well, but it's such a solid movie. I mean, as a professor, when teaching students about the hero's journey, A New Hope is one of the perfect examples of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
It's one of the perfect examples. So I use that to go through the hero's journey with them as an example, because most of them have seen it. I did have one student say, "Oh, I haven't seen it." I'm like, I'm about to create a new assignment here. But we're going to go through it. And so, is it a perfect movie? No. But it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's always actually been, and I think about this like this. When we only had the first 3 movies, I put it at the bottom just because I liked Empire the best and Return was really good, and then that's just where it naturally felt because for me, because I love Empire so much. Return of Jedi is really good because of all the revelations and all that stuff, and then you just have to naturally put this third. When the prequels came out, Episode 3 was really good for me, so I would put that higher. 1 and 2 probably. So, and then unfortunately, when all these movies start coming out, for me, A New Hope always kind of hung out. It's kind of just hangs out in the middle for me. Like there's definitely movies that I think are better and I like better. Like again, Empire, Episode 3, Rogue One. Return of the Jedi probably, but like the sequel trilogy. Like at first I had Force Awakens kind of higher, and now I don't know. It's like the sequel trilogy is kind of moving down on my list lately.
Oh, the sequel trilogy has definitely been moving down over the years.
Like I'm starting to put the prequels ahead of the sequel trilogy more now.
Oh, I don't blame you.
Yeah, because everybody for a long time agreed that Episode 2 is like the worst movie, but I don't know. Episode 2 is like starting to get better for me.
Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, definitely Last Jedi is bottom for me.
I think Last Jedi is the last one for me.
Yeah, but right now I think New Hope, like you said, it holds true. It is the original film, and it's definitely stood the test of time, even 45 years later.
Most of the time when I go, what are my favorite Star Wars movies? I think, what are my go-tos? Like, if I'm in a Star Wars mood, what am I watching? Mm-hmm. And most of the time, it's the OG trilogy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Most of the time, it's the OG trilogy. It's like that's what I go to. That's what I gravitate towards. That's what I want to watch. And then after that, it's the prequels. And then after that, it's the sequels.
Mm. So you go in order of release, pretty much.
Pretty much the order of release.
Yeah.
Every now and again, though, like Revenge of the Sith and Solo are ones where I'm like, yeah, I really want to watch them. My go-to right now is my favorite, which is Rogue One. Right.
But see, the thing about it is, what has really worked, I will tell you, is when I pop in Rogue One and I watch that, it immediately makes me want to pop in this movie.
Yep.
Because I do want to. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to watch how this ends now, and so
I've only watched one half of a movie. I got to watch the second.
Exactly. So, all right, everybody, that is our commentary for A New Hope. I feel like we covered a lot, and we probably had so much more to talk about. Did you talk about everything you wanted to talk about?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe I try to go into these commentaries like without a plan. And then
totally.
Just
no, I have some notes, but definitely things come up. And just see what
pops up. Well, because we highlighted a couple of moments that I don't think either of us have noticed before.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. And it's such a great thing to bounce different perspectives off each other, because that's the name of it, right? Seeing how other people see these things. And so let us know how you guys thought about the commentary, and if you guys had any questions about what we talked about. We're going to keep continuing to do these. Or
if you have any other insights that we didn't even touch.
Exactly. 100%. So go check out more commentaries on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/InsideTheForce. We are going to be continuing, so look forward to, if it's not out already, The Empire Strikes Back, which will be the next one. And we're going to go all the way through we will go through the sequel trilogy, even though I feel like we'll have a lot to say about that one.
I can't wait to make fun of Superman Leia. I'm sorry. Literally, when I first saw
I don't know if I've heard Superman. I've heard Mary Poppins a lot.
Superman. When that happened in the theater, Zach and I looked at each other and we're like, just were like, what is this?
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, not to ruin
New
somebody
powers.
else's
Yeah.
art. I get it. It's art.
We'll get it. We'll get there. All right. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, this was fun, and looking forward to keeping this going. And like we said, check us out on YouTube and follow the show Inside the Force every week on all your podcast feeds and right here on YouTube as well. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.